I really love to network. I think that's probably the biggest thing that I could ask people listening to really pay close attention to. And that's to really connect the dots, and not in a way that serves you, but in a way that serves others. So if you see something out there where you can help connect someone to make their dream come true as opposed to your dream come true, please do it. I think a lot of people spend so much time thinking about themselves and what they can get versus what they can give. And I would really advise people to shift and completely flip that around and go in motion of what you can give over what you can get.
This is The Entrepreneur Way with Neil Ball. Unlocking the secrets of successful entrepreneurs 7 days a week. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter at Neil D. Ball. Napoleon Hill said the power of the mastermind is the driving force. To discover how you can unlock the potential in your business using the power of a mastermind, go to mastermindunlimited.com. And now, here is your host, Neil Ball.
Hello, it's Neil Ball here. Thank you so much for joining me today on The Entrepreneur Way. The Entrepreneur Way is about the entrepreneur's journey, the vision, the mindset, the commitment, the sacrifice, failures, and successes. I am so excited to bring you our special guest today, Elizabeth Hamilton-Guarino. But before I introduce you to her, I have a quote for you. Suzanne Langer said, "If we have new knowledge, we must get a whole world of new questions." The Entrepreneur Way asks the questions so we all get the insight, inspiration, and ideas to apply in our businesses. Elizabeth, welcome to the show. Are you ready to share your version of the Entrepreneur Way with us?
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you for coming on the show, Elizabeth. Elizabeth Hamilton-Guarino is a Hay House author of PERCOLATE, Let Your Best Self Filter Through, and founder and CEO of the Best Ever You Network. She understands firsthand the challenges that life can bring and has worked with thousands of people worldwide to illuminate their light within and help them live their best lives. She has a degree in communications and broadcasting. She is a life coach and food allergy expert and is the host of the Best Ever You show. Elizabeth and her husband and 4 sons live in Maine. Elizabeth, can you provide us with some more insight into your business and personal life to allow us to get to know more about what you do and who you are?
Sure. I own the Best Ever You Network. It's at besteveryou.com and besteveryou.net. And I'm also a newer author with Hay House, which is the largest publisher of self-help materials in the world. And I sit in a space to help people around the globe be their absolute best.
Mm-hmm. So can you just tell me a little bit more about the Best Ever You and what you do? I mean, obviously you said that you'd help people become their absolute best. How do you do that?
Well, we're on a mission on Best Ever You and our networks and our social media to really raise awareness and to inspire people to embrace their inner love, their gifts, their talents, and everything that creates the essence of who they really are, and then challenge people to share their own uniqueness with the world. So we've created this really cool space where people can discover or even rediscover their authentic best self and create a vision and a practice to really live where each and every moment in their life matters. And so we really help people connect people with their self, to others around them, and to the world really as a whole.
Mm-hmm. And when you actually help people do this, I mean, I can understand how you make money out of selling books, but how do you make money out of this? What you do there? Is it a course that you sell, or is it something else that you're doing?
Well, I think a lot of what we do, we actually don't charge for. So we sit in a space of really not charging a whole lot for what we do, except for when we do seminars or with our books and things like that. But a lot of our information, and I intentionally did this setting out to do this business, was to really provide this information at a very high level of information and make it accessible to people.
Mm-hmm. And what do you enjoy most about what you do?
I think I love it when people email or call me or send me a note in the mail that says something really touched them or changed their life. I absolutely love that.
Mm-hmm.
It's my favorite thing.
And what have you got any examples of the type of thing that you actually help people do?
Sure, yeah. Well, this past year, every year I help someone lose weight. That's just one thing I seem to be able to help people do. And so last January, a gal approached me, and she was sitting at a little bit over 300 pounds and asked me if I would help her lose weight. And I said, absolutely, and I'll donate it even. So I'll donate my services to you for the year. And you check in with me every day, and we're going to change some things and coach you and do some things. And so she weighed in this morning at 178 pounds.
Good grief. Wow.
Yeah, isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of thing we do, and we're not like a weight loss center or anything like that. It could be anything from like a move or a job change, or so we just help people sort of get unstuck. It's really cool when the light bulb goes on and people start to really connect the dots and become healthy in all ways. And I believe well-being is not just like your weight and your health and things like that, but really a combination of mental, physical, spiritual, financial, and emotional health to combine to make somebody well.
What is it that drives you, Elizabeth?
That's an interesting question. I think that drive's been there since I was itty-bitty. If you ask my parents, and if they were on the call right now, they'd say she's always been this way. From helping teach the kids in kindergarten how to read, because I could already read and write. It's just something I love to do. I love to help people.
And how do you relax when you're not working or helping people?
On the baseball field. We've got 4 boys. I don't know if there's a lot of relaxation. It sounds like everything's really busy all the time with the kids and the website, and my husband's job, and all the stuff. But actually, that's one of the best things I've learned is how to really keep it real and relax, and shut off the internet or shut off the TV or whatever. But we love to be outside. We live in Maine. We have a son. One of our sons is a college prospect for baseball, so we're always traveling around the country for that. And I get a lot of sleep. We exercise. We eat really well, and laughter is key. Mm-hmm.
And obviously, if you're helping other people, it wouldn't make sense if you wasn't helping yourself as well, would it?
Yeah, exactly. That's a really big part of it is to make sure you take care of yourself. In the mix, for sure, especially when you have children. I always say that to moms and new moms, to make sure you're taking care of yourself somewhere in there, for sure. And
do you have any entrepreneurial role models, Elizabeth?
My parents are my entrepreneurial role models, and I've kind of, licked some wounds and learned as I've gone here. But my parents, I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family. I don't know that my parents ever worked for anyone else, ever. I grew up with my parents owning a chain of video stores, and they owned a TV production company along with that. And now, even the parents are both in their 70s. My dad's a stroke survivor, and they live in Minnesota. And my mom owns a really cool jewelry company that supplies a lot of the casinos and businesses with jewelry. It's a really neat company. She is a true mom-entrepreneur of the greatest sense.
Excellent. Elizabeth, can we just talk about the time before you were an entrepreneur? What difficulties did you have to overcome when you started your business?
When I started Best Ever You, I was in a job, actually out of the house working, and I was in an environment where there were 4 boys, believe it or not. I call them boys. They were men, 4 grown men in 4 corners of an office fighting. And I was in the middle of it, and I sat behind closed doors thinking there's got to be something better than this. And in that moment, I wrote a business plan for Best Ever You. I called up a friend on the street, and she registered the website. And I came home that night and told my husband I had quit my job and started Best Ever You right then and there. And it was probably cumulative, probably a 20-year career in the financial services industry that I quit.
It sounded quite a decisive moment, that.
What did you say?
I said that sounded like a very decisive moment when you did that.
Oh, yeah. It was, and it was quite interesting coming home that day also. But my husband and kids and everybody, the kids are a little bit too small to really get it, but my husband was like, "What'd you do?" And I'm like, "I had to quit it. It was just so toxic." And he's like, "All right, this is cool." And he goes, this is way more you anyway. You're always about helping people be their best. And for a long time, I was spinning my wheels a little bit because it was to help people be their best financially and in a corporate sense with companies, helping them do all their things their best. So it was a shift for me to go from that to specific things with people, with mental and physical and weight loss and all those things.
Mm-hmm. And did you have any doubts that delayed you starting your business?
There were never any doubts. I am always filled with positive and gratitude, and there's a story that goes behind that as to why. I've nearly lost my life on a couple of occasions with anaphylaxis, which is allergic reactions. And that's the whole basis of my book, Percolate, and Percolate, Let Your Best Self Filter Through. And so I'm not one of those people who doubts. I'm more one of those people who does.
I've never heard of that before. That's like, so allergic reactions that can be life-threatening. Is that what you suffer? I developed life-threatening allergies as an adult to peanuts, nuts, fish, and shellfish after my second pregnancy. And so I wear a medic alert on my left arm, on my left wrist, and I live my life maneuvering to make sure I eat the right things because those items land me in the ER. Sometimes quite difficult avoiding some of those things, isn't it, I think?
Oh, it's a really nasty allergy, especially with flying, especially with processed foods, which I really try and avoid because you never know where they're made or what's really in them. And then other people's cooking is tricky, too, because they try and people always try to please people with food. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, it's fine, you can eat it. And there's that, trust factor that you don't know if they know your allergy completely and all the food and all that stuff. So, mm-hmm. I'm here and I'm breathing, which is awesome. But in 1998 and 1999, I had two really crazy allergic reactions, very life-ending types of moments. One, I was pregnant, 6 months pregnant with our son, Cameron, and in 1999, and the other one in 1998 was a life-threatening allergic reaction to almonds. And I woke up on machines hooked up to make my kidneys function and all sorts of things. So I'm very grounded in gratitude. And what I mean by that is where some people are looking outside, I can look at my van. I'm looking outside right now at our van. This van has raised our kids. It's kind of old. It's kind of this and kind of that. But I have tremendous gratitude and thankfulness for the thing, whereas other people might be sitting here going, oh, man, I need a new car. And I back everything up to just breathing and go from there every morning and every night because I know what it feels like to not breathe. And so everything in my life really has perspective.
It's a good way of looking at things, that. And what mistakes did you make that slowed your journey?
Oh, internet mistakes. I would tell you, owning an internet business, when you're at the beginning, I wasn't as familiar with the internet as I am now. And I would tell you that I've almost lost my business to an internet predator twice. I've had my website held hostage by a designer. Just all sorts of things internet-wise that you're just sort of fumbling through and figuring out. And I'm by no means, an internet expert or like that, like a technology guru or anything like that. But I know enough now to, do my thing and hold this business on here and host the websites myself and design the websites myself and all that sort of stuff.
And what are some of the things that you did before you started your business that'd be helpful tips to some of the listeners who haven't yet taken their first step on the entrepreneur way?
I really love to network. I think that's probably the biggest thing that I could ask people listening to really pay close attention to. And that's to really connect the dots, and not in a way that serves you, but in a way that serves others. So if you see something out there where you can help connect someone to make their dream come true as opposed to your dream come true, please do it. I think a lot of people spend so much time thinking about themselves and what they can get versus what they can give. And I would really advise people to shift and completely flip that around and go in motion of what you can give over what you can get.
That's great advice, that. Elizabeth, can we just talk a little bit about the entrepreneurial journey now? Do you think culture is important from the beginning in a business?
I absolutely do. I think when you're starting a business, you set a tone, and you can tell when you're walking into toxic environments versus a positive environment. You know on your own where you buy things, where you shop, where you go, where you live, and it's paying attention to that gut instinct that I think really sets a tone and a drive and a happiness level and a perspective and a peace and a positive energy. And I think collectively, when whether you're starting it on your own or starting it with 2 people or 10 or 20 or 100, you're all going to go where you place your energy. Completely 100%.
Yeah, that's a great answer, thank you. And knowing what you know now, is there anything that if you'd known it when you started out would have helped you to shortcut the learning curve?
I had a very sharp learning curve with my magazine. I think my whole life I was like, oh, I want a magazine that's on the newsstands, and this. I know I've got the content. What can I do with it? And I still am, really, to this day. I actually have a meeting at 2:00 today to talk again about the magazine because I just don't want to let it go. I know I'm not a never give up kind of human being, and you just kind of got to go till you get the right fit or yes. And magazines are so hard to distribute here. They go through a couple companies, or like sometimes you'll see here in the United States, you'll see things free to pick up in the grocery stores. I always thought you could just put your magazine there and somebody could pick it up, and I had to really learn that there's a whole network of people. It costs money, enormous amounts of money, far beyond the cost of my magazine, even what we earned in advertising to put it in the grocery stores even. And so I was a little bit naive there, thinking you could just print magazines and drop them off. And I've had whole runs of magazines thrown in the garbage by the people who work the grocery store free things and just stuff like that. So distributing a magazine is very hard. And I think people have trouble reading that type of volume of content online.
Yeah. What type of magazine is it you're going to publish?
Well, we still have it. It's called Best Ever You Magazine, and it contains tons of self-help articles. On my network, I love it when people blog for us. So it's not always just my content, but anybody can go onto besteveryou.net, upload a profile, and start blogging for us. And what we used to do that we aren't doing right now, but we probably will be, is taking those blogs and then putting them in print and online.
And how much does gut feeling influence your decisions in your business?
How much does what did you say?
Gut feeling.
Gut feeling and heart. I think I don't think so much with emotion, but I do think that's different from thinking with going with your gut feeling and thinking with your heart. So I tend to be one of those people who will do something and look back and adjust from that if I've made a mistake, rather than get stuck and overthink it. So I trust my gut a lot, and my gut's usually pretty right.
Life is made of constant change, whether we like it or not, and some people say the only constant is change. Elizabeth, how do you try to keep up with change?
Well, that's what my whole book is about, actually. It's called the PERCOLATE process, and it's a 9-point process to help people learn how to change, and it's all coffee metaphors. And I think the number one way to keep up with change is to stay open. open and aware, and really realize that you're not entitled to much, if anything, really, and that to not take your breaths and breathing, and your moments for granted. And that's a really great way to ground in being able to deal with change, because change happens all the time, and happens to you, it happens for you, it can happen when you least expect it, it can be life-altering. There are all sorts of ways that change impacts lives, and I really think the best way to deal with it is to really back up and stay open and aware, and that way, if something does knock you for a loop, you know how to cope and deal and move on. I think some of the most coolest stories are people who have had life-altering change, and they're maybe even doing better than the rest of us, even in certain ways. I know my dad, I tell this story in the book, my dad's a stroke survivor, and, this was an unbelievable stroke, a hemorrhage and all sorts of things, and there was a point at which he came through, and he was in a rehab facility, but they weren't sure if he could talk, walk, speak, all those things, and so they wheeled him down into a speech therapy area, and that's not as easy as it sounds. He's a 200 and some pound guy, 6'4", took an hour to get him out of bed, and he was weak and all this stuff, and the nurse said to him, Jim, and my mom and I were in the room, she said, okay, we're going to play this alphabet game, and she'd taken us aside and said, don't be alarmed here. Most people don't say anything, especially in his condition. And so the mission was when she said A, B, C, you were supposed to say the word that came to mind. So she asked my dad, she goes, A. And most people say A, or, they just repeat the word or whatever. And he said aardvark. And we all looked at each other like, oh, God, I just completely lost it. And then she said B, and he said benevolence. And then it went courage, determination, excellence. F was a swear word. Greatness, goodness, kind, happiness, integrity, all these amazing words. And that's where really my book was born, right there. I took out my journal and I wrote Percolate ABCs of Life, and kind of went from there. But that was a real moment where he decided he was going to live and do all the things he wanted to do. And that was in 2004. And he's still, I just FaceTimed my dad yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for sharing that, Elizabeth. What is your favorite book on entrepreneurialism, business, personal development, leadership, or motivation? And can you tell us why you have chosen it?
Well, I'm a big fan of Hay House authors. Of course, I'm signed with Hay House, and I love everybody there. And there's a couple of Hay House authors that I think just really walk their talk and have people's interests at such great heart. One is, I'm going to go with the author, and then I'll tell you some of their books. The first author is Noah St. John, who wrote the Book of Affirmations. And the other guy's name is Mike Robbins, who wrote Nothing Changes Until You Do. And one of the reasons why I like those books so much, I also like the Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I love those Four Agreements. But back to Noah and Mike, both those guys really stuck their necks out for me to help me become an author, and they endorsed my book. And Mike just came on to the Best Ever You show, and he's got this amazing baseball background, and he speaks nationally. So does Noah, and they walk their talk. And I also love authors that can appeal to children, and I don't mean like little kids. I mean like teenagers and college students and things like that. And so I've tested their books out on our 4 boys, and they hold up.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Everyone, when you have a busy life, listening to audiobooks is a great way to expand your knowledge in the time when you may be doing other things, such as driving or when you're at the gym. We have a special offer for you of a free audiobook of your choosing. To choose your free audiobook, go to www.freeaudiobookoffer.com. As long as you've not already signed up, then you will qualify. Elizabeth, what I'd like to do now with you is just speculate about the future a little bit with you. What one thing would you do with your business if you knew that you could not fail?
If I couldn't fail, and I don't think like that either. I I basically view failure as a wonderful thing. It teaches you a lot of things. Not the greatest thing in the world, but definitely teaching. But I would open up Best Ever You centers, like actual centers that people could walk into for a lot of different things. I kind of have a business plan written around this, but I would call them, Best Ever You centers or the Best Ever You Foundation. I haven't quite figured it out yet, but along the lines of a real life brick and mortar type of place where people could come in for various things.
And what skill, if you were excellent at it, would help you the most to double your business?
I wish I could draw. I don't know why, but I always get blocked up with that. I wish I could actually be the one who could make the logos. And I've learned recently on Canva, Canva.com, how to make quotes and sayings, and it's pretty easy for somebody who has no artistic ability to use. But I always wish I could draw, because in me is this just children's book author as well. I love to write children's books, and I get real hung up in not being able to illustrate them myself, because I have all these images in my head of the way I want the book to look like, illustrating wise, and I just can't draw. I seldom say I can't, but there is a consensus in my house that I definitely can't draw.
Yeah, I'm a bit like that with singing. I'll sing in my head and it doesn't come out quite the way I think it should. No, yeah. Singing, yeah. I don't know that singing would help my business at all, and I don't know if drawing would either. But I just when you said that, that's just kind of what came to mind. Is I just absolutely get so hung up on, you live in a world where you're trying to do graphics on the internet, and it's just a learning curve that's beyond me a little bit. In 5 years from now, if a well-known business publication was publishing an article on your business after talking to your customers and suppliers, what would you like it to say?
Oh, she touched my life and made us both better. Not just I touched someone's life and made their life better, but they made my life better too.
Mm-hmm. We're now at the part of the show where you share 3 golden nuggets with us. Elizabeth, what is your favorite quote and how have you applied it?
It's interesting. I've never been a person who lived my life by quotes. But recently I heard this really neat quote by Gary Kobat, and he talks a lot about, we're kind of the same. He's on my website too with besteveryou.com. We both do a lot of collaborating. And he said, dark minds, M-I-N-E-S, produce gold, and so do dark minds, M-I-N-D-S, if they're focused properly and used properly and learn to find the light. I might have misquoted him a little bit, but that's the general gist of the quote. And then I'm always mindful of Winston Churchill's quote, and kind of I've adopted it a little bit as my own and changed it of never, ever, 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 ever giving up, ever. Ever.
There's a few more evers and nevers in there, probably.
Like that, I just completely destroyed that quote, but whatever.
Well, thank you. And do you have any favourite online resources that you can share with us?
I like to go to... I do. I like to go to Hay House. I like to go to Heal Your Life. And, my online resources tend to be things that aren't really work-related. So, like, I'll go online and read the news or read sports. I love sports and baseball. And the radio. I love, like, iHeartRadio and things like that. So I don't think my online activity is going to be super inspirational, because most of the time I'm online writing. I'm not really an internet surfer.
Yeah. And what is your best advice to other entrepreneurs?
My best advice to other entrepreneurs is to never give up. It really is. Sidestep those naysayers. I can't tell you how many times I've been called just horrible things, like washed up soccer mom. My kids don't even play soccer. To get a real job, to what are you doing, to you'll never do that, you'll never be successful. And it really takes a lot of self-esteem intact to really withstand some of the brutality that you get verbally, and the other things people do to just sort of take you down, wipe you out, or, this is a bizarre world out there competition-wise. So I really like to tell people to surround themselves with love, make that a real close-knit network of people that you can trust. They'll give you advice, whether you want to hear it or not, and really to never give up. Because the second, I found this so many times, like I've had moments where I just feel like, I can't do this anymore, I got to do something else. And then the next day something really cool happens. And you're like, oh man, if I would have quit, that never would have happened. So keep going.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Everyone, if you didn't manage to get a note of Elizabeth's favourite resource or her favourite book, then you can find the links on the Elizabeth show notes page. Just go to theentrepreneurway.com and search for Elizabeth or Elizabeth Hamilton-Guarino in the search box. Elizabeth, is there anything else that you'd like to add about your business?
I think you've really covered it. I just think it's important that, there's a lot of people out there searching for what to do. Everybody's got families and careers and outside interests and community, and you can be pulled in a cajillion different directions. And I think it's very important to really sit down and think about what matters to you and what your priorities are. So, for example, in our house, we've always put our kids first. So we've done things like not do things for work and choose to go to a baseball game or choose to go to a concert, or we've really scheduled things around our children to make them first so that we weren't missing those moments with them growing up. And so I think my biggest advice would be to make sure you're not missing things.
Elizabeth, it's been an absolute honour having you on the show. You really have shared given us a good insight into your personal life and your business life, and your experience from business has really come out, and you've certainly shared some great ideas with us. So thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me on and having me on, and I really appreciate your audience listening and you doing this. I think your show is awesome and your website's awesome, and best of luck in all you do. You're welcome. Thank you very much for that, Elizabeth. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Entrepreneur Way. Subscribe to our podcast and follow us on Twitter @Neil D. Ball.